What's up, and welcome to Ware Gaming Weekly. My name is Nick, and that right there is my brother Josh.
Hi,
Say hi,
Josh.
Josh. How are you doing
I am
today?
doing well. I'm doing all right. Um, yeah,
Doing all right? All right's a fine way to be right now. I don't think anyone's expected to be perfect at
well,
the
yeah.
moment.
I've got this massive muscle spasms going from the base of my skull here all the way down to below my left shoulder blade. So it's been going off all day.
It's some we must there must be something in the I don't know, the fact that we're brothers, because I also have been having this back pain on my left side, and for some reason I feel like it's related. I have some like muscly chest pain as well, and they usually hurt together. And so it's kind of like a couple right when the coronavirus started. I was feeling a lot of these like panic attacks, and that's kind of what it feels like. Except I don't have the anxiety; I just have
Mhm.
the pain. So anyway, so we're just a bunch of hurting
Yeah,
people at this moment, right?
that's right.
So
And for video watchers, you might notice I am no longer backwards, which I tried to wear things that didn't look like they were backwards, but now I've
right,
fixed my screen to where it looks correct. So it's
that's
all this
awesome.
is a learning process for me, but it should look right today.
Good. So curious, Josh, have you been able to play anything this
Well,
week? Have you been much gaming this week?
not a ton of gaming. I'm playing, not to beat the dead horse of Slay the Spire, but I did play a little bit of that. I'm moving through the characters. I won't go any further than that for people who are tired of hearing it. It's still a fun game. Go play it. Otherwise, um,
Yeah.
I dove back into Destiny 2. I didn't dive back in. I skimmed back in or dipped my toes back in because I wanted to try to get it running at 60 FPS on my computer,
Oh yeah.
and just to see if it makes like that big of a difference. And it is very noticeable when it runs at 60 FPS. My computer's not the strongest computer in the world, so it's not going to look incredible. But I mean, it was pretty much a steady 60, 1080, 60, and it looked great. I didn't feel like it changed the world for me. Some people might call that
Sure.
sacrilegious, but I mean, it was fun. I like to play it.
Well, we're not used to having big flashy,
Yeah,
TVs
I
and stuff.
still felt
Anyway,
a little bit of a delay between my DualShock and the computer. I don't know if that has to do.
because you're not mouse and keyboarding
Well,
it.
I did play for about 30 minutes with the mouse and keyboard. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel right. It feels like I'm just using the computer. It doesn't feel like I'm playing a game, and unless I'm playing an RTS,
Mhm.
using a mouse and keyboard doesn't really work for me. So I plugged
Yeah,
the controller
I
back
only
in.
want mouse and keyboard support so I can play The Sims.
Yeah.
Sorry, you
And
go.
then otherwise, I don't know if the controller delay. I have a Bluetooth to the PlayStation dongle that's in my PC. It's in a USB 3.0 port, but it's still Bluetooth. So there's still going to be a little bit of a delay, but I don't get that kind of delay on a PS4. So, um,
Right.
but it did. And the other strange thing was I was getting rumble feedback from playing it on Steam, on the PS4
Hmm.
controller, DualShock 4, but it didn't feel the same. It was not as
Hmm.
intense. It felt a little more warbly, very like just like
Warbly?
it was weak vibrations.
Like not specific to what you were doing
Yeah, or
necessarily?
just not as intense of a reaction
Hmm.
sometimes. I mean, even that
Sure.
was
Yeah.
noticeable. So
So I wonder if the Stadia, because I know you said you played on Stadia. I think we talked about it on a different episode. I wonder if you had the Stadia controller when you're playing on the Stadia version, if you'd get that
maybe
feedback. I'm not sure if there would be a difference, but
when
um,
they talked about Stadia, they
I
did
don't know.
talk about how the controller, ideally, when they have everything rolled out, it's supposed to communicate with the servers better than just uh, using your DualShock or another controller. I don't know how
Hmm.
that would work or what technology would make it communicate better, but I mean, they did mention that itself. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the DualSense controller. They're making me I'm driving through sand or something like that. I think
I
that'll
still wish
be
they
really
called it a
interesting.
DualShock 5, but whatever.
And yeah, DualShock 5 actually sounds like a cool band name. DualShock 5. It sounds like you'd be a boy band from
There
the
was
90s.
a boy band. What were they called? They were the something 5. Not the Jackson 5. That was the 70s.
No one said Jackson 5.
I know. Someone knows because they had a song in Smart House. They did like a performance or something in Smart House, the Disney original movie. They were. I can picture them. I can hear the song, but it's gone. So, but there was something 5.
Well, go
ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been playing a game. I've been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I've been playing some of the campaign and the multiplayer. A friend of mine has been playing it, so I finally, bit the bullet and bought it. And, I did not do my due diligence, and this is something we've talked about. I did not do my due diligence and research because you had asked me, like, oh, I heard it's a large download size. And I'm like, I guess it's fine. And then I realized that I have the entire game downloaded, and it's 200 gigabytes right now, and it is insane. And I saw a meme I think I sent to you was this guy being like wondering what game I'm going to have to delete so I can fix this download. Oh, well, okay. I don't even remember what the meme was, but anyway, so I was just like, yeah, I didn't realize I was the only one. It is almost like obnoxious how much it is, just because it's like you don't need that much space. And then today I hopped on before we recorded the show and played a couple rounds. And the first thing that popped up, in those games, there's always updates like, oh, hey, here's some patch notes or whatever. It's that, oh, do you want to conserve data? Well, just delete some of the DLC. But just so you know, if you delete some of that DLC, you may not be able to play some of the game. And I'm just like, what? Just like, yeah, I was it's so mad. And like the game is a lot of fun, which is what I'll get to in a second. So it's like, yeah, but screw you, Call of Duty. I mean, I know like Sea of Thieves, I remember I think a year after they came out, they had a pretty decent sized download. But then a year after they came out, they like did a repatch where they basically re-downloaded the game for you, and they like halved the download size or the file size. And I'm just like, can we get that? Like, none of this makes any sense. I'm like, I almost feel the need to get a sprite.
Or you're just playing multiplayer?
I'm playing all of it.
I mean, it would make sense at some point to be able to, like, you know what, let's just delete the single player, once you beat it or whatever, and only have the multiplayer in it. If that's 80 gigabytes or whatever, that'd be fine. And then as we go along, we got to compress that stuff down. Like,
yeah. But anyway, so I mean, we can all lament on file sizes anytime, but I have really enjoyed the game. I haven't really properly played a Call of Duty in a while because I've just not been interested in the annualized Call of Duty fatigue or whatever. The last Call of Duty I properly played was probably Black Ops 2, and I spent a lot of time in the multiplayer on that. I never really considered myself a first-person shooter guy except for like Destiny. So getting into this has been a lot of fun. The campaign is really so everything about this game is gorgeous. The details on the characters' faces, they've definitely like heightened everything. Of course, you can't complain about the way the game feels because they know what they're doing at this point. The gunplay, the reaction, the feel of the control is great. I'm actually doing very good in Warzone and the other multiplayer maps. So I went through and just played a lot of my favorites, like Kill Confirmed. I remember loving that mode when it first debuted. I think in Black Ops 2, Gun Game, One in the Chamber. I spent like a whole day just cycling through those three, and then of course Warzone is the Battle Royale, which is when I squad up with my friend and we try to survive the win the match. The most hilarious thing, so it starts off like all battle royales, right, where you're on a plane and you drop out of the plane and you look at the map, you're like, oh, we're going to go over here, based on where the circle is
Mhm.
or whatever. So you touch the touchpad to bring up the map. But to ping a location that you're supposed to go to, like Jose will be like, "Oh, we should go here," or he's like, "Okay, you pick." And so I'm scrolling around. I'm like, "Oh, we should drop at the stadium or whatever," and you're supposed to hit the uh, uh, down D-pad, down on the
Mhm.
D-pad to ping a location. But I keep wanting to hit X, and X is jump out of the plane. And so I don't know how many times. Like I'm pretty sure the main reason we lost outside of the fact that I just generally suck, but like most of the time is because we land where we're not intending to land. Oh, we're going to go all the way to the dam, so we're going to ride the plane for like another minute. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'll hit down, or I mean to hit down to mark the dam, and then instead hit X. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And so we just have to drop out, and then it's crazy and chaos, and it's a lot of fun. But there's another mode that's like a longer team deathmatch inside of the same map they use for the Battle Royale. So it's kind of like in a very interesting way. It's kind of like Mag, um, where it's not Battle Royale, it's team
Right.
deathmatch, but it is on the same map. And that's what I've spent most of it, because you can respawn. You don't have to worry about dying permanently or whatever. And I've been using sniper rifles, and I've saved a lot of videos on how I've been getting good at
Sniping.
like quick scoping and sniping, and I feel like so cool right now because I'm never good at those things. Like, granted, if like in the grand scheme of things, if you watch the full 10-minute video, you would see me like screwing up. But like, there's a lot of good shots I got in there. I feel pretty good about it. But anyway, so it's a really good game. I do think if you had the extra space, it'd be fun to play with
Yeah.
you.
Well, I might be
But
able to.
you might have to get a whole
Well, I
separate hard
might put
drive.
it on my PC.
Oh yeah, and there's complete
Yeah.
crossplay. So
So since I have such space on my PC, of course, I guess I could also put it. I have the external drive for uh, that works for the PlayStation, so I could also put it on there. But
I considered buying a separate drive just for the game, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to play it for that long. But I do like your idea of like once I'm done with the campaign, just
yeah,
knocking out of like
I think
deleting
it's a
that
good
and
idea to have an
playing the
external
multiplayer.
hard drive. I mean, anyway, I did that for a while when my hard drive was smaller, uh, where I would just load up just a bunch of games on there, and when you disconnected it, it was fine. You just couldn't access those games until you reconnected it. Uh, I
Yeah.
wouldn't get a hard drive just for
Uh,
Call of Duty, although it might eventually
no.
take up that space. But uh,
Well, I just think if my thing's a terabyte, right? So it's like that's like a quarter of, or not a quarter, like a fifth of my hard drive space.
yeah,
So it's just not great. But um, but so we've had some time to digest the PS5 conference, right?
yep,
One thing I've noticed I wanted to ask you about, Josh, is so there's been a surprising lack of more stuff from either party, even Nintendo, if you want to call them. But I'm surprised there's not been a whole lot from Xbox since the PS5 reveal, and I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, because right now we're still in
well,
that waiting game now. PS5 came out big and strong. Go ahead.
I don't expect Sony to. We didn't expect to hear any more from Sony after that this week because we have The Last of Us coming out tomorrow or
Mm-hmm.
in about 3 hours. So uh, I didn't expect to hear really much more unless there was some confusion about their initial post, like they had, with the Spider-Man stuff. Um, I really didn't expect to see more from Sony. Uh, I assume Microsoft went back to the drawing board on what they were doing
Mm-hmm.
after their initial third party reveal. I think they tried too hard to be uh, men of the people, where it just looked like
Yeah.
us and with bad green screen, and they were over promising and not delivering. And I think they just really had to go back and reevaluate what they were going to do. Because I think their initial plan was to have that reveal and then have a reveal every month or some kind of stream every
Mhm.
month. It seems like they're skipping June now, and they're going to have a July and August reveal.
Yeah, I definitely know they're doing something next month, and I'm sure we're going to say a lot of great things from them.
Oh yeah, for me. I think it's just they're retooling how they want to say things and what they're going to do as far as presentation wise. They don't want to do what EA just did or what they did last time. So
Right.
they wanted to be more. They'll probably try to be more closer to what Sony did with the PS5 reveal. But we did hear a little bit from them as far as them again trying to clarify smart delivery, because apparently it's just super confusing to people what smart delivery is, and it's literally what I've been saying. Because they put out a tweet, they're like, "This is how smart delivery works. Turn on the Xbox of your choice, download your game. That's it.
Mhm.
Buy
Yeah.
the game once
Yeah.
with smart delivery, or if the title supports smart delivery, you buy the title, and then depending on what Xbox you load it up on, will determine which version it will download."
Right. Yeah.
But there's still some weird
So,
confusion going on. So that's about the extent we've heard from Microsoft. Just
yeah. And now, of course, PlayStation is not really talking about if they're going to have a system or if their system's going to work or what they're going to do when it comes to that. I know that there will be backwards compatibility. I feel like right now it's kind of a tired argument or tired talking
yeah,
point until
I
they
think at this
finally
point
say what they have.
I'm
And
tired of hearing the conversation. Like in about 5 to 6 months, we're going to know exactly how all of this works. So these are
yeah,
moot points.
so right. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what Microsoft says next week next month when they announce their big
I
response. And
really
I
hope.
have a feeling that they're going to announce their pricing first.
I could see that. I really hope to see what the initiative is doing. I hope they have a really strong reveal. Um, I don't think,
Hmm.
unless Halo is going to be significantly different, just having something from Halo or from Gears or something is going to be big enough to move the needle. We got to see a new strong IP from them, and so
Hmm.
Initiative has to be ready to knock something out of the park within the first year of release.
Right. I think I disagree a little bit. I do think because this Halo is supposed to be substantially different than the Halos that we've gotten. I think it'll be. I think if they don't show Halo, they're making a mistake. If they don't show Gears, I don't think anyone's going to care because they just came out with Gears 5. But I do agree that like they can't just show the things we already know. They have to show at least one super strong game, and then hopefully, like they've already announced the sequel to Sinuous Sacrifice, Hellblade. Hopefully, maybe they have gameplay. Like, I mean, kind of know how the game played last time, but now we can see it how it looks on Series X and
Right.
on the Unreal Engine 5 and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that that's what we're going to see.
The
But
hardest thing for Microsoft is
um,
going to be the fact that they came out and said that for the first year or so, there's not going to be any exclusive Series X titles. Like most of the titles they're going to release, or all the titles they're going to release within the first year or so, are going to be also playable on the Xbox One. It's going to be hard. They've got to come up with a value proposition for people to come and fork out money for a brand new console when they're going to turn around and mark down the Xbox One X to a fairly reasonable price.
mhm,
That's still a very powerful console. I mean, they tout it as the most powerful console on the market, so it's more powerful than the PS4 Pro. Well, if I want an Xbox and everything they're
mhm,
doing, I could just go buy Xbox One X and have everything they're
yeah,
doing. It's got the 4K. It's got, I don't need 8K. I'm not going to need 8K for another 15 years, or I barely have a
right,
4K
right, right,
HDR, so we're still working on that right now. So I could just
yeah,
get the One X. And now, they might be perfectly happy with that, but they've also spent a lot of money on this new stuff, and so that's where they're going to have
Yeah.
to balance value for the old stuff, but wanting people to jump on to the actual new consoles and not just buy a discounted old one.
Right. But well, instead of hearing anything from Xbox or PlayStation 5 this week, all we've gotten is kind of like some people have been disappointed because we just found out that Cyberpunk got delayed, and we'll talk about more about that on Ware Gaming
Yeah.
News next week. And then a lot of new Pokemon games and stuff. One thing that we kind of didn't really touch on last week, so it's kind of old news, but something that I think would be kind of an interesting talking point for now. Is that AT&T is looking to sell WB Games
Yeah.
division, which includes studios like TT Games, Rocksteady, NetherRealm Studios, all those big games, especially developers that we've been waiting to hear from in
Right.
general. It kind of, there's not a, like on the article that I was looking at, there's not a whole lot of information as to, is there anything happening to the studios? Are the studios going to be able to keep going their pace and then someone else is just going to own them? Like, I know there's been talks that maybe Take-Two might own them, or Activision, I believe, is one of the names. No one's responded to it. But I was curious if you had a thought about what this could mean for these games. And right now, I don't think there's one game on from any of these developers. Again, TT Games, Rocksteady, NetherRealm, Monolith Productions, WK Boston, Avalanche, Montreal. I don't know if there's one of these developers that has a game announced that we know for sure is they're working on. I know that WB is working on something. Montreal is working on something because they keep teasing stuff, but we don't know what it is. And for all we know, if this thing happens and it's a shakeup for the company, will they even release again?
So we know NetherRealm is still working on DLC and stuff for Mortal Kombat 11. And when they get sold, they'll retain their rights. So they NetherRealm owns the IP for Mortal Kombat. So no matter where they go, they get to take it with them. The more interesting thing will be if Warner Brothers sells their Warner, or if Time Warner AT&T sells the Warner Brothers gaming studios. Are they going to retain the rights to those games when Warner is going to definitely keep the rights to Batman and DC Comics?
Mm-hmm.
So, other than maybe like completing projects still in progress, are they going to be able to work on Batman titles in the future, or Ninja Turtles, or Harry Potter,
or is this going to like split up the family? Because if Rocksteady, owned by WB, is making a Batman game or a Justice League game or Harry Potter game, like, do they keep that part? And does NetherRealm go with someone else? Or maybe I just don't quite understand how.
Yeah,
work.
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
really,
as far
but
as like if it sounds like they're selling them in as a package. It's not going to be I don't think it'll be a piecemeal. Like I'm selling NetherRealm to Take-Two. Of course, I guess they could if they wanted to, but I honestly I just don't know how that would work. Specifically with the IP. If Warner, AT&T, and Time Warner want to keep the IP, then they would just license it out to whoever I guess buys the studios. Because if they want to get out of games completely, they're just going to sell all their gaming studios. Then there's no reason not to license out that to those studios that are working on those games anyway. They're just taking the funds away from them. They're not going to be directly running the game.
So here's the intro to a Medium article on Medium that talks about it just a little bit. It goes into a lot of opinions that I don't think are necessary, but the facts part is so. It says it looks like AT&T is looking to sell Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, or WB Games, with a possible price tag of about $4 billion. The company is reportedly selling the gaming division in an effort to divest assets to deal with its $165 billion debt. CNBC reports that the discussions are currently private and that no deal is assured or imminent. Nevertheless, the announcement has piqued the interest of several parties in the gaming industry. For the moment, Take-Two Interactive, EA, and Activision Blizzard have already expressed interest in acquiring WB Interactive. And so those are the facts right now. Of course, then it goes on to say like maybe Microsoft should buy them or whatever. I just think that it's just a really interesting thing when you get, like you said, when you get into all those contracts and what does this mean when someone is divorced from that family? I don't know. I think I would love to see, I mean, if it had to happen, I would love to see like Take-Two take ownership of these franchises, because I mean, Take-Two owns Rockstar, right? And so maybe the correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation, but I think like that's a pretty good step in the right direction. Whereas like Activision Blizzard or EA seems like a risky step for those games.
I agree with that. I wouldn't really want to see anybody or any of those studios go to EA or Activision. I don't necessarily see them with Take-Two because Rockstar's not going to work on a licensed game, period. And Take-Two's got 2K, who are going to focus on sports games. You have Gearbox, who does Borderlands, and they're doing that Godfall. I don't know if any of those, if that studio would be good.
No, I wonder if, though I wonder what if it's not about removing the WB name, and they just have the company, they just own the same studios. It's just Take-Two is now in charge. I wonder, now that the more we talk about it, I'm like, I wonder if that's what it's really happening. Because it would seem weird just to rip it apart. But
well, I mean,
I don't know.
If you were going to sell, I mean, you could sell Sony, WB Montreal, or Rocksteady, or if you think of it like, think of it as a publishing arm. Each one is an individual asset that they would get the whole thing instead of not just the IP, but they would also own the studio and the people, and then they would be up to Sony to determine whether they wanted to keep that studio or marry it into or merge it into something they already own. So in that case, it wouldn't be. It's not necessarily moving the IP to one of their studios as much as
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. We're all overdue for some really cool Batman announcement or Harry Potter announcement or something. So I'm eager that hopefully soon we'll hear something, but it seems a little shaky at the moment. But I do want to segue to our main topic of the show. Is going to be kind of still PlayStation 5 related a little bit, but we wanted to talk about the future of what digital games and how digital media is going to work in the future. So this was inspired by a couple tweets from Imran Khan, a former Game Informer reporter who now frequents on the Kind of Funny podcasts, and he does freelance writing and stuff like that. So he had some questions about what this might mean, and I'll read the tweets. So he says, something to chew on. I wonder if Sony primarily makes special edition PS5s in the discless edition. The margins are better, it's cheaper to manufacture, and it slowly starts getting people to the idea that physical media is a luxury item and not a necessity. He goes on to say, a probably larger argument needs to be made that if Sony is going to do this, the consumer relationship with digital libraries are going to have to change. Right now, they're almost all upside for the producers with little beyond convenience for the customer. So that's kind of the starting point for this conversation. I think it's a really interesting idea. Josh, when you asked me when we did our PS5 post-show responses, you asked me which one I was going to pick, and I instinctively just said, I'm going to do the discless edition because I assume it's going to be cheaper. I could be wrong. I assume it's going to be cheaper, and I don't buy games anymore, physical games anymore. And I don't watch movies physical movies either. So like my inclination is to go all digital, but with the caveat that it is inconvenient to go all digital. I remember a friend of mine was playing the Warhammer game I was talking about a couple weeks ago, I guess. Warhammer Vermintide, and he's like, "Oh, you should pick it up. It's only like $14 at GameStop." And I was like, "Okay." So I did that, but I'm like, I don't really want to buy it at GameStop. I'd rather just download it. But it was like 40 something dollars here, so I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go get it then. And then, of course, maybe like a week and a half later, it was cheaper on PlayStation Store. So using that as an example, it's just kind of like, well, to Imran's point, it's like right now, other than periodic sales from like days of play or whatever discounts they do, like it's never going to be more affordable to go digital. We only do it out of convenience, and so we can both play games. Right. So anyway, so that's kind of like, I don't have an answer yet, but that's where I want to start the conversation. I'm curious what you think about it all, and if you think you're going to go digital only.
I am leaning more towards the digital only version, just because, like you said, other than I don't have any movies other than, like I said, the Avatar Last Airbender series. I almost don't have a reason to have a disc except for the PSVR. All our PSVR games are physical, so that might be a caveat to that. But I'm also not playing PSVR that much, and you know, if there's some kind of sale on a bunch of PSVR games, so we could pretty much pick up everything we have, or not, and probably be fine, because I've got most of the best games for PSVR we don't even have physically. So
yeah,
I am leaning more towards the digital side, and you know, like you said, there's not unless you get a random deal or a flash sale or something like that. You almost always pay more for the digital copy than you would just buying a used copy at GameStop. But that might change fairly quick after the launch of the consoles. Because right now, PlayStation and Microsoft are going to be, they just need GameStop and Walmart and stuff like that to sell the consoles. And that's really not even fully the case anymore, because they're both promoting their own stock of their own stores
of consoles.
I saw recently that Microsoft's going to do it as well. Like, you can buy a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, or Microsoft's even doing a installment program, like a phone deal, where you pay $20 a month to have Game Pass Ultimate and a Xbox One. So they're giving you reasons to buy from them instead of going to a brick and mortar store. And if they see that that's useful and they don't need as many retail partners to put out games, and if they're encouraging people to go digital and showing how easy it is to go digital, then I can see them very quickly pivoting to, yeah, we don't need the physical stores anymore, and so we're going to start pricing games $10-15 cheaper, just as a standard. And because they keep more of the profits, they don't have to split 30% with the retailer. They can give the studios themselves a little bit more, so they're gonna make a higher income. And so,
and of course, you won't be able to get rid of physical media entirely, because there's still a huge collector base, and there's also just people who can't rely on digital only. And even me, who is digital only, it is inconvenient when like my internet is not great, so I have to make sure I have. If I'm going to download something, I always make sure, or if I want to play something, I make sure it's downloaded like 3 days before the day I want to play it, just because it takes forever to download, and that's fine. Like, it's a minor inconvenience for all the other stuff I get out of it. I think that the thing I hope about what this discless version does is increase the hard drive size, solid state drive size rather. Like hopefully it comes with 2 terabytes. They haven't really said how much is gonna be on it, but if it comes with 2 terabytes or even more,
I don't think it will.
then which
I think
you think it's gonna come
I
with
think it's
just
going to be
one?
the standard. I don't think anything is going to be different except for the hard drive or the disk drive, because
Oh, you mean you don't think it's gonna be more than whatever the
no. So we know
um,
what we do
disk
know for
version is?
sure is that the PS5 is shipping with an 825 gigabyte solid state drive. Uh, so it's
Mm.
not even a full terabyte.
Oh, I
Now,
didn't know
I
that.
think that might be usable space. So it might actually be a terabyte drive, and 820 is the usable space. So you have 820 or 850, something like that, of gigabytes of solid state memory. Uh, but I think that Sony's going to keep both of them the same. That way, if they increase the hard drive space, which would make sense because you don't have a disk drive anymore, they have to increase the price, and they want this one to be the cheap one. They
Right.
want this one to be the 499 or even the 399. That's the pipe dream. But uh, if they have this one at 499, it's easier to have the next one at 599. If you have one that's
Yeah.
under that 500 mark.
Yeah. Well, what I like about the idea, obviously, of this being cheaper is like if you are saving $100, $200 by buying this digital edition, then that 200 extra dollars you would have bought for the physical edition, you can spend on the games in Sony's
Right.
store. So automatically they're recouping something. It may not be enough, but it's all coming back
They
to
could
them.
take a
What
bigger
I
loss
did,
on that digital version because of everything has to be bought through them. You can't even go to a store and buy a digital code other than PSN money. You can't go buy the digital version of The Last of Us anymore. You have to buy it on
right?
the PlayStation Network, and you can only buy the gift cards for the network.
Yeah. So I'm curious what this does for those retailers in general, because like with GameStop, um, it seems ironic that they'll be selling this console that is ultimately going to be, well, not ultimately, but will definitely
Contribute to their
make it more difficult for them to survive, contributing to their downfall. Full disclosure, I own stock in GameStop and don't want them to
uh, I,
go down,
I
but
do as well,
it's
but just more speculation than you know anticipation.
yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. This isn't insider trading
No.
or anything. This is just like, well, so it's like I do want them to succeed, but I'm also going to buy the thing that's best for me, even if it's not best for me in the long run. I don't know. Ultimately, I've always bought my consoles from. No, that's not true. I literally just said last week that I bought my console from um,
Walmart.
Walmart, but I bought my Switch from GameStop. I think I bought my PS3 from GameStop. I don't remember
See,
really, but I have nothing else to say.
well, I bought my original PS4, second hand, but I bought my PS4 Pro from GameStop, and I'm pretty sure I bought the George Foreman
Mhm.
PS3 from GameStop, and
Oh yeah, my PS4 Pro was
I
from
bought the
GameStop.
PS TV from GameStop, uh, or not the
Mm.
PS TV, but the PlayStation TV. Those are different.
Yeah, but so with that in mind, it's like what I if Sony wants to kill retail market, if they just want to, I think what the several things they have to do is, they already have subscribing base. You pay $60 a year or whatever to get PlayStation Plus. I think if you're a PlayStation Plus member, you should automatically get some sort of discount on all games. 10%, 15%. You should automatically get that on all games. And then of course increased on sales. So which is something that they already do. Like if you're not a member, you get 10%. If you are a member, you get 25%. But I'm saying like no matter what the game is, the first day and date, you pay $50 instead of 60 or
Yeah,
something.
or 55.
I think they need to do. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be ridiculous, but I'm saying like I think if they start creating like what an in-store system would be, but on the digital market, like if you're a GameStop Pro member and you get the magazine and stuff like that, you also get discounts on games. You get a $5 gift card every month, whatever. Um, like they should have the equivalent to that
You know,
on that if they really want to try to
and
fight for
Sony
that.
could come out and say, "Hey, we've revamped PlayStation Now for PS5, and it's going to be you can download any game from PS Now." That would be the big deal. We've got my brain, the cogs are turning.
Hmm.
They didn't officially
Yeah.
say backwards compatible for everything, but
Mm-mm.
they've only said it for PS4 and PS5 and PS4. Is PS5 can play PS4. So it looked like there was like more
Right.
options in that little Mark Cerny bubble that he had. What if PS Now,
Hmm.
right? Because currently with PS Now, you could download PS4 games, but you can't download PS3 games because of the weird cell processor information.
Hmm.
What if the PS5 can emulate enough for the PS3 that you can download your PS Now games now? All of them. PS1,
Hmm.
2, 3, and 4. And that's the only way to play your PS3 games is through PS Now, but then you can download them and have the full
Right.
fidelity of uh, that instead of streaming it. And then
Yeah.
PS5 games are going to be more frequent on there, especially if you're a PS Plus member, because we're going to include PS Now. See, if you start putting those services together and making that value proposition even higher, then well, if Sony is going to give me access to all these games, free games every month, and discounts on games and all this stuff, then sure, I'll get digital because I'm never going to buy a disc and put
Yeah.
it in there because I'm getting all this stuff.
It's all online. Yeah. And I think, Microsoft is doing kind of their own outside of that line version where it's like, well, you can buy a game once and whatever console you get in the future, even if you buy that console from GameStop or whatever third party retailer, um, you never have to buy the game again. So yeah, you're given whatever your $300, $400, $500 for the console, and then the 60. If you buy it physically, you get $60 on the game. Then when it's time for you to get your upgraded console, you don't have to buy the game again. Plus, with Game Pass doing the same thing with what you're saying with PS Now is already removing that barrier to entry. And then if I can play it on my phone, I don't even have to buy the console anymore. Um, and so automatically, both parties in their own way are kind of like usurping that retail market, which I think is super interesting. And I think it will. We won't. I think it'll probably take about 2 or 3 years to see
Yeah.
how drastic an effect on this is.
And hopefully, I do hope GameStop doesn't collapse completely. They're going to have to pivot very hard following this transition because I really believe with the way both of them are going to have digital versions of their consoles that they're trying to eliminate the retail market because Walmart doesn't really care about video games. Amazon doesn't care about video games. Best Buy is not. I mean, none of these retail
Yeah.
carriers are heavily invested or affected by video games anymore.
Right.
And so with them decreasing their games as a priority, and um, Microsoft and Sony wanting to get away from catering to the retailers, it's only a matter of time. And so GameStop's got to pivot hard moving on if they're going to survive. And it looks like they're trying, but I
Yeah.
haven't really heard any more since
Well,
you know
and
a couple months
they
ago.
haven't really had a chance to.
Yeah.
They
The
haven't really had a
the
chance to do anything
the
with what they
pandemic
wanted to
has
do.
kind of caused
Um,
a huge problem there, and that might be the ultimate nail in the coffin if they can't come back and have people come to their stores and hang out. But
yeah. That was a big thing. Like, right, I remember right when it happened, GameStop was trying to force their way to stay alive as long as possible and not get shut down and claiming essential businesses. And I feel bad for them. I mean, like I think that they did their best, but ultimately they're not essential. And I remember, I think when I went to GameStop to pick up that Warhammer game, it was like the 2 days before they ended up shutting down completely. And it was just like, and it's at least in California. I think they stayed open a little bit. In California, they weren't even open for curbside pickup. They were just shut down for 2 months. I think now you can probably go. But anyway, so yeah, that's really interesting. It's really interesting to see how it's going to all play out. I bought The Last of Us Part 2 digitally, so we go play, and I don't feel bad about that. That's another thing is collector's editions. Like, I mean, not that I always feel the need to buy collector's editions, because, I mean, it's not that we buy so many games, but it's just like I'm not going to pay $100 on all of these games just so I can have extra stuff I don't really need. But like, it would have been like, especially like, oh, there's a cool like poster or vinyl or whatever you can get, these or statues or whatever. And it's like, I do want those things. I want to be able to get the code for
And I think that's
Last of Us Part 2 and get the vinyl and stuff.
I think I don't think you're going to get the codes anymore, but I think those things can still exist. I think GameStop can be a place for stuff like that. You'll go in, you'll hang out, you'll have your tournaments, and you can buy your collector's editions. It was weird, 10 years ago when collector's editions were coming out that didn't include the game. Like, you're paying $130 for a collector's edition, there's not a game in it. Well, now it makes sense because you're getting your game cheaper digitally, and if you want the stuff, you can go buy the stuff. Just like, if I want a Joker figurine, I can go buy the Joker pop figure, and that didn't come with the game. So that kind of a la carte novelties are becoming more and more the norm.
Yeah. No, but I mean, but I do think they should have like, you should be able to pre-order a digital deluxe edition that sends you physical stuff too.
Sure.
Like, put your email address and say, okay, that way it comes with the you don't have to buy them separately. You buy it all together. But I do think it's good if you do both. But so next week we are gonna have The Last of Us. I will definitely have tried to play it, though work is really busy the next week. I don't know how long I'm really going to get a chance to.
What we're talking about as far as The Last of Us, I'm going to try to sit down and play it, but there's just a lot of stuff going on. But I am very excited to get into it, especially with all the reviews saying positive things as far as the game itself being story wise incredible. So. And,
so I'm very excited about that.
I'm happy that the leaks didn't seem to negatively affect the review scores coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to be honest, I haven't really been leaked by anything. I mean, I have my assumptions based off of the way people talk about the game, but I don't know specifically any information.
I have not been spoiled on it, and if you spoil it for me, I will delete you and ban you. But there's not nothing in the comments to ban, so.
I thought you were saying me personally. I'm like, well, you can delete and ban me if you want, but I will not ruin it for you. But yeah, so I'm gonna get into that. I do want to play more Call of Duty. I'm trying to get more friends to hop in. But it's just like with that 5 hours that I have.
We're both talking. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, with a little bit of time I have, like, I don't like playing in the morning before work because I'll get distracted, and when I get off work, I only have like 5 hours left before I got to do it all again. So I have to decide what I want to use that time for. Do I want something heavy and dark like The Last of Us, or do I want something that I don't have to put my mind on and just shoot things? So that's where I'm at right now.
And I really just want to push you back in Destiny, because I want to get into it. But
yeah, well, I think you're gonna have to wait for that. Or at least on my end, you're gonna have to wait for me on that. maybe after June's over and I've beaten The Last of Us
Yeah.
and not started playing Ghost of Tsushima in between those times. But well, Josh, I believe that's our show for
Yeah, I
this
think that's
week.
all we have to talk about.
We'll be recording our Ware Gaming news in a couple days, and you'll look for that on Monday. You'll look for this soon, and then in the meantime, you can check me out on Twitter. I'm at Speak Nicklish.
I'm at Jaws1015. You can also follow us at WareGaming_. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, say goodbye, Nick.
Bye, Nick.